Back again with another movie review. My name is Josh. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you click the thumbnail, we're here to talk about some Godzilla X Kong. Not sure if it's actually called Godzilla X Kong or just Godzilla Kong. I mostly just call it Godzilla Kong, but either way, this is the sequel to the Godzilla vs. Kong movie that came out a couple years ago, and this is by Adam Wingard, who is a director that I honestly kind of forgot how much I liked him from some of the earlier movies he did, whether it be The Guest, which is one of my favorites, smaller, kind of independent horror, sci-fi kind of movie that has awesome acting. Actually, one of the actors in this movie was also in that one, Dan Stevens. And then also things like You're Next. I mean, those are just some classic good horror movies that are very cleverly written and directed really well. So I had high hopes for this one. And if you are unfamiliar at all with the channel, I don't know if you can tell by my shirt, which is one of like a dozen Godzilla shirts that I have for some reason, because he's awesome. That's why. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I'm really a big kaiju fan in general. So pretty much all the monsters, including Kong, I absolutely love. I grew up watching all the old Godzilla movies from, well, not when they started, but from when I started being able to remember movies. Me and my brother, we grew up watching those pretty much nonstop. So we had Universal Warner Brothers come out, and they're going to start to do the whole new MonsterVerse. I was excited. We had the first movie that came out that was Godzilla, that was much more serious paced and whole different scale to Godzilla. It was awesome. And then we started to get some more. We had Kong Skull Island, we had King of Monsters, and then we had Godzilla vs. Kong, which led us up to this one. And admittedly, I am a little bit biased. As I said, I grew up watching these, so I have absolutely loved pretty much all of them. Not necessarily the plot or the storylines in them or the actors or actresses. Again, I don't think that necessarily they were bad. I just don't think the scripts are necessarily that awesome all the time. But at the same time, I don't go to monster movies for the most part to actually watch story. For the most part, Godzilla Minus One was kind of a rare exception and a little bit of a mythical beast of having this very intricate, dramatic, well-made story, human story with really good characters that you cared about, and also having an awesome monster in there, specifically Godzilla. That one was awesome. But that's not what the MonsterVerse movies are. These are more of the Godzilla movies that I grew up with. Godzilla fighting all kinds of monsters and all kinds of mayhem and destruction, and that's exactly what this one was. For me, this is almost exactly what I wanted from another Godzilla and Kong movie. It is literally a smorgasbord of just monster fights, and I absolutely loved it. I know everybody might not enjoy this movie, but if you know what you're going in for, if you know you're going into a Godzilla and Kong movie, you should like it. If you're going in expecting an Oscar-winning script or story, probably not. But as long as you know that and you go into this, it is freaking awesome. They took the weakest part of the legendary films, which has always been the people, and minimized that one in this one. And I actually heard Adam Wingard talk about that a little bit, where he was really trying to focus it as much as possible on the monsters, which is exactly what I wanted and exactly what I wanted to see. And how the people were utilized in this one, I actually did appreciate, because basically they were just kind of used to keep us informed of what's going on. As most of the monsters don't actually talk, but I will say the monsters had a really, really good way of communicating through body language. I mean, even if they didn't have the people there kind of, spelling out for you what's going to be happening, you knew what was going to happen. Like the animators or whoever did all of the design for the monsters and the creatures, they again, I think they had to have studied a whole bunch of different animals, because they were having some conversations or some discussions going on, whether it be monkey to monkey or monkey to lizard in this case. And it was freaking awesome. Everything to me in this one just got so ramped up. I mean, it's literally, this is like WrestleMania for monsters. And if that at all excites you, go see this one, because that's exactly what it is. If that worries you at all, maybe don't go see it. For me, it was exactly what I wanted. I got to see Godzilla kicking some ass. I got to see Kong kicking some ass. I got to see them teaming up, doing things, fighting some very interesting monsters. And there were a ton of monsters, a bunch of them we've never seen before in the monster universe. And to me, they all really worked. The most odd thing to me, honestly, is I am actually a person that really values logic and, rationalization for why people do things, and movies need to make sense and connect it from point A to point B. And for me, and this one, it just worked. And again, that's probably my bias coming in. There's a lot of weirdness in this movie. I mean, the whole theory about everything that's happening doesn't always just make complete and utter logical sense, but in the context of the universe that you're in, to me, it all did kind of line up. Again, the purpose of the people actually being there, what they're doing, let alone acting as our kind of guide through the MonsterVerse itself, but they have a purpose and a role that's there. It's not overdone. The actors that they did pick that are in this one, Dan Stevens specifically, and Brian Tyree Henry, were just fantastic together. They had such good chemistry, and they were really, really funny. I mean, this was actually a much funnier movie than I thought it was going to be, and that came through in some of the action scenes as well, but there's still a lot of terrifying things as far as, Hollow Earth, things are trying to eat you and eat you a lot. But everything else about the movie, I mean, obviously the visuals were super cool. The monsters looked awesome. The soundtrack was awesome. That's something I remember from Adam Wingard, that he is a fan of, a lot of the 80s types of movies, and this definitely has a lot of synthwave involved in the soundtrack. But he also picked some very specific songs to fully throw in there, and it really just had a good feel to it. Like, that paired with the actual color palette and everything that was used there. Again, the world, the whole universe is out there, but it's a universe that has gigantic monsters living in it. So as long as you keep that in mind, I think you can have a really good time with this one. I'm not even speaking in hyperbole here when I say that this is my favorite movie of the year so far. And yes, I'm well aware that I've also seen Dune 2, which I will say was really close to this one as far as how much I liked it, and is absolutely probably a better movie overall from any of the metrics that you might check off when you're talking about like an Oscar movie or something like that, except rewatchability and enjoyability for me specifically. And that's super high on my list of what makes a movie the best, is if I do want to go rewatch it. And halfway through this one, I was like, man, I can't wait to rewatch this again so I can actually pick up everything that's happening, because there's so much stuff happening in the different worlds that are created. And I did really like that with Dune as well, but Dune has a different pace to it. It's a lot slower. It's a lot longer. It's really good, but I'm really just not going to casually throw that one on to watch. Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla X Kong, whatever they're calling this one, I absolutely will. And I will rewatch it a bunch. So for me, I think I gave Dune 2 like a 9 out of 10, because it is a fantastic movie. Really, really good. This one, I got to give it 9.5. The only reason it's not a perfect one is because I personally think they could have focused a little bit more on Godzilla. I'm a big Godzilla fan, clearly, but I do understand that Kong is the more relatable of the monsters, so it's much easier to kind of stick with him for more of the time, much like they did in Godzilla vs. Kong, which, again, it was a very Kong-focused movie with bits of Godzilla. This one was very similar in the fact that it was a very Kong-focused movie, but you had more bits of Godzilla and you had more of him doing things and tussling with other titans, shall we say, that it kind of made up for it for me, and I did absolutely love that. So almost got to that 10, but we could have a little more G-Man and I would have been even happier. But overall, I was ecstatic with this movie. Again, I think if you know what you're going in for, the movie is big and over the top, and it's gigantic monsters fighting. So if you're going to check that out, this is your movie. If you want to go check out something that's much more dramatic and emotional on all these different levels, go watch Godzilla -1, because that also is another fantastic movie. It was my favorite movie of last year. So I'm starting to see a common theme here, but I absolutely love this movie. 9.5 out of 10. Let me know in the comment section if you haven't seen it yet. Are you excited to? And if you have seen it, what did you think? Because I'm aware I'm a little biased, but this is probably the most excited I've been for a movie in a long time, and it did not disappoint me. I used to get this excited for Marvel movies, and then they started disappointing me, and now we're living in the monster world, and I couldn't be happier. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Go to hit that subscribe button if you would. That'd be fantastic. And as always, you're awesome. Peace out.